You turn your compassion into a cage, sacrificing truth for peace until your soul quietly disappears. That's not healing. That's self-erasure. Arthur Schopenhauer called this the silent surrender that poisons your very will to live. It starts quietly, in daily choices to appease, to soften your own edges for comfort's sake. The tension isn't loud. It's a silent ache, a slow leak in your sense of self. On the basis of morality, he set the stakes simply. Compassion is the basis of morality. Two forces clash here: the drive to ease another's pain and the demand not to betray yourself. So the mind scrambles for balance, but the strategy breaks you before it fixes anything. You give up ground slowly, your opinions, small boundaries, pieces of desire, hoping that the discomfort will pass. That's when the exhaustion creeps in, hollow and heavy. If your kindness means swallowing disagreement or never voicing need, are you really connecting or quietly dissolving? Notice what you just did. You agreed before you even thought about it. The philosopher knew this trap, but he also carved out a path of brutal honesty. In the wisdom of life, he warns you what is truly required. Happiness belongs to those who are sufficient unto themselves. Now the complication intensifies. Pursuing your own sufficiency feels like a betrayal against compassion itself. There's guilt. What kind of person guards peace so jealously that they risk appearing cold, selfish, or aloof? The very act of holding steady in your selfhood can feel like cruelty to those who expect your comfort more than your authenticity. Internal resistance builds with every opportunity to bend. Fear creeps in. What if I lose their approval? What if I end up alone? These questions thump like a heartbeat, drowning out your real wants. The mind flips between guilt and emptiness, panic and fatigue. You say yes to avoid friction, then lie awake, replaying the self-erasure you can't quite name aloud. Something precious slips away each time you silence yourself for another's relief. The philosopher's point is uncomfortably sharp. The price of undisturbed peace is your own vanishing. There's a cost to being understood by everyone. Often, it's yourself. This isn't just moral, it's existential. Your life grows narrower to avoid upsetting others, locking you in a cage that feels safe until you realize you're the one who built the bars. But resistance only deepens the crisis. To finally preserve yourself, you must let some comfort die. Maybe other people's, maybe your own old sense of duty. The idea sounds violent. That's the turning point. Real empathy can consume the very person meant to wield it. You cannot serve everyone else's feelings without bleeding out somewhere invisible. It's the hidden loss behind every easy yes and every swallowed no. Each time you dissolve into someone's pain, your sense of boundary fades further. And it feels noble, even holy, while it's happening. Here's the part you'll want to skip. This cycle can never satisfy those you're trying to save, nor restore what you lose. Instead, your empathy stretches until it smothers. The more you give, the less of you endures. At some point, it's not empathy but erasure, and each act of surrender makes the next one easier, not harder. The discomfort builds into a question you're not supposed to ask. If helping others demands my disappearance, what am I defending? Is it compassion, or just the terror of being alone with my own needs? This thinker never shied away from the ugliest tension. He confronted the truth that still shatters illusions. You can lose all of yourself by trying to keep everyone else whole. In Essays and Aphorisms, 1851, the warning grows cold and direct. We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. Self-betrayal becomes a default setting, barely noticed, rarely questioned, and yet constantly eating away at the core of your personhood. Here's the memorable line: empathy without boundaries will starve you until even your kindness turns to resentment. Abandoning yourself for the comfort of others breeds a slow, contagious bitterness you can't confess. Here's the jolt. Everyone watching this has done it more recently than they admit. But that's not the deepest cost. There's a mechanism here most people never see. For the philosopher, the deeper fracture forms in reality itself. At the breaking point, he realized empathy can become a screen, an endless film projected over raw existence, coloring every experience. In The World as Will and Representation, the layers are peeled back. The world is my idea. Each time you give yourself away in the name of empathy, you reinforce the illusion that your pain, your boundaries, don't count. One more compromise, then one more, until you're wading through life under someone else's sky. Most never notice when the shift happens. You keep justifying, telling yourself that love means absence, that selfhood is selfish. Over time, you're not just lost, you're erased, seen only in the mirror of others' needs. It's an invisible vanishing act. The softer you become, the easier it is for life to shape you according to every demand but your own. Notice the grip tightening without warning. Historically, self-sacrifice gets praised, canonized, but exile from oneself was always the cost. In some cultures, martyrdom is celebrated, yet most silent martyrs go unremembered, their private losses swallowed by busier, noisier lives. The psychological machinery is brutal. At the core is a hidden fear, not of failing others, but of facing the void left when you stop playing savior. What if you're nothing without their need? What if solitude means admitting you have wants and those wants matter? This is where the philosopher's honesty cuts deepest. When you're no longer overwhelmed by others' suffering, what remains is not peace but possibility, space for your own life to emerge, brief but real. In The World as Will and Representation, the clock keeps running. Our life is a mere succession of moments. Every rescue, every overreach devours another fragment of time that could have been yours. When you reclaim even part of that, something shifts. Moments start belonging to you again, if only for an instant. The boundaries you draw are not barriers to love, but the shape of a self surviving, even thriving, within all the chaos and need. By refusing erasure, you recover the one life that's actually yours to inhabit. Sacrificing truth for peace quietly erases your soul. This awakening challenges you to embrace your own wants. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and comment below. What single truth have you avoided for others' sake?